Back again on a Wednesday night for the BP Ultimate Supercars All-Stars E-Series. And it's been so much fun over the last 3 rounds. Tonight, round 4, Jonathan, we're going to be live exclusively on Fox Sports for Armor All qualifying. And we've got some huge names joining the fun tonight.
4 brand new wildcards for this week. 2 of them have had success here at the circuit in the NASCAR, both Nationwide Series and Cup Series. Looking forward to seeing how they go in our qualifying sessions in this next hour.
After the success of Bathurst, we go back overseas. And for the first time, we go to North America for 2 really cool tracks. One with, well, actually both with a lot of Formula One years throughout their time in the sport, and Watkins Glen up in New York. The Gilles Villeneuve circuit, which is commonly known as Montreal, going to be a lot of fun. And there's a reason why we're qualifying in this order, which is essentially looped to what we're going to be doing in the racing.
Yeah, so great for supercars to switch the qualifying sessions around, because you don't want drivers chopping and changing between circuits. So we'll get rid of Watkins Glen first, head to Montreal for qualifying, and then we'll have our first 2 races at that circuit, Gilles Villeneuve.
You may have noticed there's an expression session tonight, which is going to be something like we've never seen before. So burnouts, drifting, crashes, whatever they want to do, it's going to be live straight off the back of qualifying, which is going to be a lot of fun. So Watkins Glen is up first tonight. It's going to be a wicked show. Plus, one of those huge wildcards, Marcus Ambrose, he knows this track better than anyone in the field. Let's take our Logitech track preview with Marcus.
G'day, I'm Marcus Ambrose. On behalf of Pertec being in business for 40 years, I'm here in my sim studio to walk you guys around a lap of Watkins Glen International Raceway. This track's been really good for me in the past, racing NASCAR. I've won a lot of Nationwide Series races there, as well as a couple of Sprint Cup Series as well. So it really starts, it's a fast flowing track, it's pretty sneaky fast to be honest with you, and it really starts, the whole lap gets set up by a really clean turn 1. It's a downhill braking zone, you've got to be careful not to brake too deep, you've got to get a clean line through there, get on the power hard and early to give yourself a run into turn 2 and 3, which is what we call the S's. They're really fast corners, the bravest can hold it wide open, but it's not guaranteed every lap. You carry good momentum through there, it leads you onto the long uphill back straight into what they call the bus stop, big chicane section, very technical, very rough. The deep breakers always win the battle here. If you can get through there without touching the grass and sliding wide, losing momentum, that pushes you into the carousel. The carousel is one of the hardest corners on the track. Always hard to get the front tyres, to get some front bite there. It's a downhill slope carrying a lot of speed into the bowl. But if you can get through there clean, it leads you onto the back straight where you really hold it wide open on corner exit, and it gives you great momentum down the back straight. Then you've only got 2 corners to go. That's a technical part of the track. Just got to keep the line nice and smooth, carry momentum, don't hit the wall on the exit on the final corner, and that's a lap of Watkins Glen International.
He's a 2-time champ of the Supercars, and he's the subject of our first Cooper's Live chat of the night. Marcus, welcome back to Supercars, albeit virtually. I'm not sure he's pushing the button correctly. He's got a pretty cool sim setup. Try the button again, Marcus. We're trying to cue you in down in Launceston, Tasmania. This is a self-made rig. We've got you now, buddy.
Yeah, got you now, guys. I'm trying to convince myself this is not a real race, but it's been a race to get this rig ready. 4 days ago, I didn't know I was doing this event at all, and I had to paint this room out, sticker it all up, get the rig rebuilt, get some practice in. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's just amazing, this online racing. It really is quite incredible. I'm looking forward to it.
You've taken movement simulators to the next level. That thing really throws you around. How are you going to go in the expression session?
Yeah, look, it might not make me go any faster, but I've gone for immersion in this rig. So I've got the full VR unit. I've got a 4-post rig with a yaw plate. It doesn't make me go any faster, but it makes the crashes pretty intense. So I am quite nervous about the expression session. I'm going to stay well clear of Shane Van Gisbergen, and he's already told me he's got eyes on it for me.
I heard that on the back chat. Good luck tonight, mate. Good to speak to you again.
Thanks, guys.
We're going to get that headset down and ready, because we're about to dive into Armor All qualifying. This is going to be really exciting tonight. The wildcard entries, we've got some big names from NASCAR. A man who's already collected some wins this year. It's Joey Logano, the Penske star, is ready to go tonight. From the Andretti Autosport squad, and an IndyCar star and an Indy 500 winner, and Alexander Rossi joining the fray. And his teammate, who he's been doing some racing with online this week, has gone for a completely different look.
Me. Wow.
Wowee. That is Chaz Mostert's new do, and he is mixing things up dramatically tonight. That's going to be the talk of Twitter, no doubt about it. Here is Anton De Pasquale.
He's growing a beard, Chad.
Check out the goatee on Anton at the moment. So Thankfully, the hair hasn't done too much up top, but definitely a different look for Anton as we get set today. And just in case anyone was wondering what Nelson's up to, he is fast asleep behind Nick Percat once again as we get in the zone for Armour All qualifying at the Glen. 15-minute session, going to be followed by a 15-minute session from the Montreal circuit, Gilles Villeneuve. And there's already been plenty of action as everyone gets set for the night. Now, what have we got here? We've got one of the Shell V-powered cars getting set for the expression session. And that is a little repeat of what happened at the Gold Coast last year.
Please tell me someone's going to come straight into him here on the backstretch. Yeah, there we go.
So if you're wondering what the expression session's going to be like, a little bit like that. Mix in, I'm guessing, someone like Shane Van Gisbergen potentially doing some drifting, and it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's get into this. This is Armour All qualifying. Thanks for joining us live and exclusive on Fox Sports. We'll be going live all around the world on the Supercars social outlets as well later tonight when we go racing. Jess and the boys will be live up in Sydney. We're down in a very cold and rainy, stormy Melbourne tonight, as is that man, Rick Kelly, getting ready for a huge night on the sim, which he's been building up over the last few weeks with more and more gear. Gave a really cool garage tour this week as well of that setup. You can go and check that out online. So the form guide for this one, Scott McLaughlin comes in once again as our BP Ultimate points leader. Cam Waters sitting steady in second, been really, I guess you'd say, the most consistent guy in the field over the last few weeks with Andre Heimgartner. But Shane Van Gisbergen has been clawing them back as well. So what have those guys got in store for us tonight? And Anton De Pasquale, he has been the quick man in qualifying.
I think SVG, Gizzy himself, is definitely the most informed driver at the moment in the field, as you see them all dicing for track position. So this will be a 15-minute session to commence qualifying, and you're able to squeeze in about 12 laps here around Watkins Glen, but only 5 of those will be hot laps. And expect to see these drivers make race pit stops through here. One of the most difficult pit entries we have on our All-Stars E-Series calendar, and we'll see something similar at Montreal in the next session.
So Rick Kelly starting a lap in his virtual Castrol Mustang, and we talked earlier about that sim setup that he's got running at home, and a few fans have felt that they want to take on the challenge as well. How cool is this? Everybody embracing sim racing, starting to build their own wooden rigs. I want to see a few more fluffy woolen steering wheel covers though, until it's completely what Rick's been running over the last few weeks. But how cool is that? He's inspiring some generations to go and build their own rigs, even with the camping chair.
And what else can you do during isolation, you know, during this unfortunate coronavirus global pandemic? And for Rick right now, he's butchered the inner loop, but great to see he's inspiring a whole bunch of new sim racers who can get on board. And if you're wondering what this is iRacing, Chad. You can visit iRacing.com and check out more of the simulator action. It's available on PC or Mac, and you can get involved on simulation racing yourself.
We talk about future generations getting involved with iRacing. Well, now even Rick Kelly's son's having a crack.
And it's
Well, we're stuck at home?
Yep.
What are we going to do today?
We're going to build my own simulator.
What are we going to use?
We're just going to use wood and a chair.
Wood and a chair, a screen,
Yeah.
PlayStation, steering wheel, and
Pedals.
pedals.
How cool is that? And man, I would be happy with sort of any rig getting at home right now, but to go and build one with your dad would be pretty cool.
Oh, that's an awesome. He's a great parent, Rick Kelly. And it's a great chance for his son to learn how to drive too, you know. You can jump into karts, which is way more expensive. This technically, it doesn't classify as a form of motorsport, but if you want it to, it's technically the cheapest form of motorsport.
Absolutely, and a pretty cool way to go and rub shoulders with some of the best in the world. So, first times coming through, Shane Van Gisbergen has ducked into the 108s already, 108.2. He has a sizable gap back to Scott McLaughlin at the moment of just over a tenth of a second. I say sizable because last week we had nearly 6 drivers covered by a tenth in Armour All qualifying in the shootout as Heimgartner just wiggles the rear of the Ned Mustang on entrance to the pits. And then the pole margin last week, Jonathan, just 0.009 of a second between Shane Van Gisbergen and Brody Kostecki, who was an absolute revelation of a wild card. I'll give a quick shout out also to Ange Missouri's, who's stepping up from Dunlop Super 2 this week with 888 Race Engineering. He's got a really cool setup. He's just 18 years of age, ready to go tonight for the BP Ultimate Supercars All-Stars E-Series, our third Super 2 driver to have a crack at the series. Now, there's already been 1 or 2 drivers pushing the limits in this Armour All qualifying session at the Glen. And up at the top of the S's, looks like one of the Tickford cars moving over to the right-hand side, trying to let the traffic go through. That's always dangerous.
Oh, what?
It was LeBrock straight up the back of the truck assist car of Lee Holdsworth, and that was a nasty one.
Now, Lee Holdsworth has been very impressive in qualifying. He's just got to sort it out in the race, and he almost made the top 10 shootout out Mount Panorama last week, but was bumped out in the final moments by Will Power, who was our wild card entry. And great to see Angelo Mazouras, the Super 2 driver, down in P21. At least he's part of the grid now, and he's faring quite well in his first run in the supercar. He's someone, Chad, I remember back in 2017 I covered in Victorian Formula Ford, so great to see him go a long way in motor racing. And when I say a long way, I mean only the virtual supercar series, but I'm sure he'll get to the real thing soon. Whoa.
That was Nick Percat in the Dunlop Super Dealer Commodore, just sliding the back end out at the second last turn.
So this is what you're seeing with race pit stops. We're expecting the first run to be a good 1 or 2 hot laps, and then after this it will be basically in lap, hot lap, out lap, 3 times over, and you'll see that for the rest of this session. You talked about the times being close last week, Chad. This circuit is basically half the distance of Mount Panorama, so the gaps are going to be even closer at Watkins Glen. They run similar times to the NASCAR stock cars. The lap record here in the Cup Series for NASCAR was a 1:08.0 by Marcus Ambrose himself, and hopefully he can pip that margin today, although he's about a second off so far, down in P number 17.
Here's the quick man at the moment, Shane Van Gisbergen. Has lost a little bit of time through that third sector last time round, but this is a fast lap from SVG. And we'll go on with it all the way to the exit over the Dunlop curb. Cam just caught some traffic at a really awkward time. Now, you can use the traffic to your advantage here. We did hear Scott McLaughlin talking about it in the Shell V-Power track preview that they did earlier today, and their own team on Twitter was saying that you really need to try and find a toe down the back straight. So are we going to see teams working together in that last lap, trying to slipstream down the back stretch?
I certainly would be. Depends if you get a good banker in, it certainly makes you comfortable for that. We're seeing the top 5 spots separated by half a second so far, but if you look from first to second, a good draft through turn number 1 here that the Walkinshaw Andretti United driver of Bryce Fullwood will be approaching up towards turn 5, the inner loop. It can help you gain about 3-4 tenths, even half a second if you get it right. And this corner is flat in an IndyCar. They were doing 1:22s here back when Alexander Rossi, our other wildcard, scored pole in the win, but you'll be having a huge lift through here to make sure you don't clout the barrier towards the outside.
Andre Heimgartner now. He's got the race face on, and he has been trying to slipstream off the back of Alex Davison. The hard part is, though, getting the toe down the back straight, which would be quick enough, but then not hampering yourself when you get to the corners.
Yeah.
Has he judged this perfectly? He sits 5th at the moment, and that's the problem. And I think Alex might have been trying to come into the pits, which what caused all that.
Well, so they have what's called fast repairs, Chad, so it can be anything from a 1 second to 8-hour repair, which it's in an instant. So if Andre can do that, he can repair the car. Otherwise, he has to reset. And if you do reset in this session, your fuel will reset to 65 litres. What these drivers are trying to do here is consume fuel, so their final lap is done with about 30 litres on board.
Nice lap from Cam Waters, takes him all the way up to 4th in the Monster Energy Mustang. That's a 1:08.5. That's one of his best qualifying runs so far of the season, albeit all up to round 4 at the moment. So Van Gisbergen, McLaughlin, De Pasquale, Waters, and here comes Marcus Ambrose. How cool to see this car back in supercars, not with the number 1 on the door like it used to be, but with the number 40 as it's celebrating 40 years of Pertec being in business. Marcus has been with that company for nearly half of their existence. And have a look at that for a setup.
That graphic should say Pertec Racing /legend. He's awesome, Marcus Ambrose. Great to see him back, by the way. Yeah. And it's such a good sight to see him at a circuit that he's won twice at in the Cup Series, Chad. And he's had, when I say bad luck, he's finished on the podium here a multitude of times in NASCAR. They don't really have a podium, but in the top 3. But he's been so close to victory. He's one of the best road course racers they've ever seen as Anton De Pasquale climbs to the 2nd position.
So it's still SVG on top now with Now we're getting much, much closer. 27 thousandths of a second. Here comes Nick Percat. Early throttle in the back end stood out, and he grimaced. Percat's 15th, and he will be dropped a spot as Marcus Ambrose relegates him down one. So Ambrose goes up to 15th and Percat back down to 16th. Check out the wide exit that Ambrose uses down at the 90. Oh, and a crash going up through the S's. It's Jack Smith, and here comes his Brad Jones Racing teammate. I reckon he escaped out of there just in time.
Yeah, lucky. Doesn't want to get in the way of 4 BJR cars out there in the field.
So Ange Missouri's in the pit box, 888 entry, rounding the last corner. And what's the wild card got in store for us tonight? He's the youngest to compete in the series at 18, and he jumps to 14th ahead of Fabian Coulthard. So that's a nice lap from Ange Missouri's, the reigning Australian Formula 4 champion. And he's just going to catch the edge of the traffic there of Jack Smith, but this will likely be an in-lap anyway for the pit box car.
Yeah, so a slight lift through there if we rode on board for a lap here. If you've watched some of the track previews, as Gizzy runs extremely quick.
It was a good middle sector for SVG. 108.21 is the best time of the night, and he's got it all out of shape down at the 90. Now he's got time to get back and start another one, though.
Yeah, certainly. Time's ticking down, though. He should be able to get an in-lap here and maybe 1 or 2 runs. It's going to be awfully close for Shane Van Gisbergen. But like I said, Chad, he's coming into this round, in my opinion, the most informed driver out of our 25 full-time runners in the series. And he's certainly impressed as Shane Van Gisbergen. It's up to Anton de Pasquale to find a way to make amends for the poor luck he's had through these first 3 rounds. He's been much better than... he's coming into the championship 8th coming into this round. He should be a lot higher than that for sure.
Here comes Chaz Mostert. I'm not sure about that new haircut. He was looking a bit like lead singer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers down there at the moment. But that's not a bad lap. He sits 5th. And he had a huge moment with the rear end locking up down there at turn 1.
Tried to avoid the barriers, did Chaz?
I don't know. He's had his own expression session upstairs already today with that haircut. So looking forward to seeing him have a crack later today. Remember, that expression session's coming up after the qualifying session in Montreal. With 3 minutes left to go, we've still got some fast runs left in this session.
He's added a mustache, hasn't he? Blonde hair now. I don't know what to expect in the next coming weeks. But he had his best performance in qualifying at Barcelona. Qualified 2nd and onto the front row, which, to be honest with you, is not a surprise. He's been, in my opinion, 4th best behind your big 3 of Van Gisbergen, De Pasquale, and your championship leader, Scott McLaughlin. And here is Macaulay Jones. Remember, if he scrapes the wall, that'll delete his lap time, Chad, but he's avoided that. And he should be able to trundle away here for the rest of the lap if there's any damage.
That was a wild moment going up through the S's down into the inner loop. He had his own wild moment last week at Bathurst when he got completely stuck at the elbow.
And have a look at De Pasquale. He's purple through sector 1 here, and he's going to come towards the intermediate 2 timing beam, and we'll have a bit of a look at how his timing goes. Van Gisbergen's just gone quicker through the first sector, so he's quicker than De Pasquale. They are trading sectors here by the lap, and there's only 1:55 remaining. These tyres can last a good 2 laps, but the second lap's not the best, and De Pasquale's pitting. This is going to be close.
He's got time just to get through here, throw some fresh tyres on it, and go once more. It's Van Gisbergen picking his way through the traffic, approaching the back of Joey Logano in the Ford Performance Mustang, trying to sap any little thousandth of a second off the back of Joey's car to the stripe. Can he lower the mark? 108.19.
Oh, great time.
And he extends that advantage by about 100th or so over Anton de Pasquale.
And Lee Holdsworth improves to 4th. I talked about him being a qualifying specialist in this series. Up to 4th is his best result so far in a qualifying session. Expect him to impress during the race too with that pace. That's thrilling.
Here comes Alex Davison now, Team Sydney. The local legends, Commodore through the last corner all the way out towards the tyre wall. Nice exit. And Alex no longer the oldest in the field tonight, courtesy of Marcus joining as a wild card. And Alex is locked into position 22 for now. How cool is this? Joey Logano set the alarm for 3 a.m. this morning to get up and race in the BP Ultimate Supercars E-Series. And here he is live in Mooresville, North Carolina. I love it, leaning into the bends like he's up on the high banks at Talladega.
I love the backdrop.
Pretty cool little pool room.
Is that a foosball table or is it I can't see.
He's doing the Peter Solberg hanging the tongue out at the moment. Look at this, he's dipping himself literally into the final turn. What's Logano got for us? He sits down in 27th at the moment. Can he jump up a few spots?
Well, look at the time though, Chad. So 5 seconds remaining, and we just saw off camera on a separate screen here that Anton De Pasquale just crossed the line with about 2 seconds to go. So he will be the last man to set a time this session. For Logano, he's down the order. And this is a tough car to jump into, Chad, so don't expect this is an accurate representation of Logano's talent. This takes a lot of weeks to learn.
Here comes Bryce forward. He sits 9th in the points, and he's going to have to try to avoid Dave Reynolds, who's having a monumental shunt at the last corner. Reynolds has done pretty well here to be 13th. What's Forward got? Some green sectors on this lap. He sits 10th. He goes to 6th. He out-qualifies Chaz Mostert, so that's a really good effort from the Middies car. Nice lap. New look for Todd Hazelwood tonight at Brad Jones Racing, welcoming Brute into the team. And that's a nice lap from the 14. He goes up to P14.
And Anton's pulled the plug on his lap. His day is done too, so he will start no greater than second for... This will be the third of our 4 races this evening. Race 13 officially in the championship. What a qualifying session though, Chad. And look at the times on the left-hand side of the screen on the Coates Hire leaderboard. Very close. 24 drivers separated by 1 second.
So a few drivers crossing the finish line hoping for an improvement late on, including the Milwaukee car of Will Davison. And no luck for Will tonight. He's going to be starting out at 20th, so that's one of his worst qualifying performances. He's been really quick so far. But it's SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen, continuing his Armor All qualifying pace from Bathurst. And he picks up his 3rd pole award of the season so far. Anton De Pasquale continuing his fast form. Championship leader Scott McLaughlin sits in 3rd. Lee Holdsworth, a personal best out of Lethal Lee tonight. And that was a nice job from everyone at Watkins Glen for that first qualifying session. 2 seconds spreading the field, which is the closest spread that we've had from first down to last. Time to check out our Armor All pole man tonight, and it's Shane Van Gisbergen once again. He has been slowly climbing up the championship order since a really tough first round of the championship. But tonight, it's Shane Van Gisbergen picking his way quite literally through the traffic to take the Armor All pole award for the first of the races tonight, which will be Watkins Glen coming up later on. We've also got Montreal coming up soon as well, so going to be lots to watch out for. This is the BP Ultimate Supercars All-Stars E-Series, and we're heading to Canada after this. Well, how cool is this? It's the BP Ultimate Supercars All-Stars E-Series, and there is a great live look at all the stars getting ready for tonight. It's like a game of celebrity squares as we get set for another qualifying session thanks to Armor All. We're going to Montreal, and it's also a good chance to check in with a guy who's raced here in a NASCAR before. Really cool to have so many drivers in the field who have raced at these tracks in real life. Joey Logano, welcome. We're speaking to you from Melbourne, Australia. What's it like up there in the very early hours in the USA?
You took the words out of my mouth. Very early over here. 3 o'clock a.m. Wake-up call was not what I was looking forward to. I didn't think of that when I signed up for this, but having a lot of fun. What I've realized so far, we just got done qualifying at Watkins Glen, and these guys are really, really fast. I thought I was like okay, and these guys are super fast.
You've got your old buddy Marcus Ambrose back out there as well. He was really handy in real life in NASCAR. How do you think you and him will go tonight?
I'm just hoping to survive this thing. Yeah, he'll probably be a lot better than me. That's all. I've really enjoyed the iRacing thing, but I have not figured out the feel that I need to be somewhat competitive. So I'm just trying to follow guys along and see what they're doing and trying to keep up. But this is a cool opportunity. I can't even figure out how to load the paint on my car. That's my problem. My car is black. I was supposed to have this really cool Ford paint scheme on this thing, and it's just a black car.
The good news is we can see the Ford scheme. So you might not have it loaded up at your end, but we can see it. It looks awesome. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, good news. All right. Thank you, guys. See you.
There's Joey Logano. He had a run in the World of Outlaws late model race last night and finished sort of mid-pack at best, I guess you'd say there. Self-obsessed, or self-admittedly doesn't have a great run in iRacing, but wants to have a crack tonight.
At least he's having fun, you know, which is what we're all aiming for at the end of the day with all this. And it's still a competitive outlet for some drivers. If I was driving, I'd be there for a little bit of both, a little bit of enjoyment, a bit of a smile on my face, a bit of a motion sim like Ambrose. Is he even driving? How is that thing moving?
I love this thing. I need to have a go in Marcus Ambrose sim. This thing is totally crazy.
Oh, it's calibrating.
And when it has a crash, you should see how much it throws him around. You'd have to be wearing the belt so he'd get completely chucked out of the thing.
One of the funniest videos I've seen. I really wish we could show that.
Let's have a chat to Chris Pither. He's getting ready for a qualifying session tonight. Chris, you've been working away on your sim and you've even got yourself a new curved screen tonight.
Sure do, mate. Definitely been working on it. I had nothing at the start of the series. I was fortunate enough that the guys at Modem Simulation looked after me for the first two events, but now I've got a simulator at home. Although it's basic, I finally got the chance to have a bit of practice, and the quick guys are extremely quick. It's much needed practice.
We saw you on the virtual reality kit at Motum, like you said. Now you've made the move to a 49-inch big curved screen. What's the biggest difference between the two? Which do you prefer?
Yeah, the guys at WVT looked after me with the screen, and it's unbelievable, to be honest. It gives quite a different perspective to the virtual reality, the VR, and I've just managed to spray the fence. But VR is a very realistic experience, especially combined with the motion. So that was it's an unbelievable setup there, and the closest simulator I've ever driven to the real thing. So I've had to adapt a little bit to try and get used to the screen, but the clarity and the experience with the big Samsung screen, this is pretty impressive too.
All right, go get him, Chris. Good luck tonight, buddy. He's got himself all queued up and ready to go. There's Lee Holdsworth off the back of an amazing performance earlier. He's live at Simworks out at Lilydale, so he's been going to their Lilydale office to use the sim live tonight, as he has been for the last 3 rounds. And that's a pretty serious setup that they've got. Pretty much a third of the field are using something from that Simworks factory in Melbourne. As he rolls out in the truck assist Mustang, ready to go. So completely different circuit to the Glen. Did host NASCAR here between 2007 and 2012, but more known for its Formula One fame. There's been some amazing moments here dating back to 1978 when the man who now has the name of this circuit, Gilles Villeneuve, took the very first win of his career, and still to this day is the only Canadian to win the Canadian Grand Prix. No Canadians in the field today. We've got a couple of Americans, plenty of fast Kiwis, and some hungry Australians ready to crack down on this circuit, including Marcus Ambrose, who was easily the most unlucky driver here when he was in NASCAR trim.
Should have won at least 4 or 5 races here. Only ended up leaving with 1 victory to his name at Montreal, and it was a bit of a job, how can you say it, unfinished business for Ambrose.
Yeah, there's Alexander Rossi, who does have a couple years experience here racing, or practicing, I should say, in Formula One. He drove the Caterham Friday practice sessions here in Montreal a few years ago now. We're going back into about 2013, 2014 for the now Indy 500 champion. He's also got experience at the Glen racing in IndyCar as well. So great to have Alexander Rossi along for the ride, and how cool to see the Napa Auto Parts livery back. We became very familiar with this car at Bathurst last year.
Yeah, drove in a wildcard entry with teammate James Hinchcliffe. They're both teammates in IndyCar 2 for Andretti, and he's also been racing rallycross on iRacing, so he's been on dirt, tarmac, ovals, everywhere you can name at the moment. And have a look at that from Jack LeBrock on 2 wheels through turn number 2. There's 5 meters of elevation change around here, and most of it you'll see through that uphill traction zone of turn 2. And it's a circuit, Chad, where the surface is also simulated on iRacing. It's a very abrasive track tarmac, and it was a track in 2010 that inspired the current Pirelli Formula One era of tires. It was a race where in a season of Formula One, we saw a lot of one-stop races. It was actually 2 stops at this race that won, and Bernie Eccleston said, hey, I like that. Pirelli, can you recreate that for us? And that's what we've got today.
So there was JLB taking a quick trip back to the pits and starting another lap. Both Walkinshaw Andretti United cars in the top 10 of that last Armorall qualifying session, including Anthony Kiedis here. Chaz Mostert ripping it through past the wall of champions. little square of racetrack that's claimed some big names in the past. And he's now up towards that big hairpin, which is at the southernmost part of the track.
It's a very bumpy hairpin. You're not allowed to drive there if you ever visit this circuit in the real world when it's not used for racing. You can come through on the bridge that you see at the turn 8 braking zone is where you enter from. And then here's the long back straight. It's known as the Casino Straight. There's a casino here on this man-made island. And then here's the final chicane where Marcus Ambrose blew it in 2009, lost the lead on the final lap of an entire race. That was the only mistake he made all day. And Chad, I think I cried more than he did watching that.
Yeah, dating back to 2007 when Robbie Gordon spun him out right about here was when his bad luck started at this track. Here comes ADP trying to get back to the top. And at the moment, 133.79 is the quickest lap of the session. And he is the man to beat in Canada at the moment. 11 minutes left in the session. Remember, after this, we're going to get a little silly as we go live with the expression session, which is going back to the Glen. Nice big runoff areas for that one. That should be a bit of fun.
I can't wait for it. Drivers, there's no rules.
No holds barred.
Exactly. Well. And we can't wait for it.
Meanwhile, we've got Jamie Whincup jumping up the order.
Up to 7th.
So, yeah, Whincup up to 7th now. 1.2 seconds away from the top. But slowly getting quicker and quicker each week.
So it's the same strategy compared to Watkins Glen. You're going to see them do race pit stops for tyres only and run that fuel tank as close to empty as possible. You use around 30 litres in this 15-minute qualifying session. Anton de Pasquale with a 33.7 early. That is a ripper of a banker lap, Chad. And I'll be surprised if anyone actually beats that for the rest of the session. That's a great time to begin your qualifying session, and this does determine the grid for our first race this evening. The second and fourth races this evening, races 12 and 14 in our championship, will be reverse grid based on the results, not on our qualifying results from this session.
So here's Rossi trying to wheel this thing through the hairpin curve. Back past the grandstand, it's going to take all of that exit away. And the speed down this long back straight. This part of the track actually runs adjacent to where they did the rowing at the 1976 Olympics. There's a big rowing basin there, the biggest in North America.
And this track was laser scanned on iRacing. So what they do on iRacing is they grab a laser and actually scan every single bump, every single part of the track, millimeter perfect. And this was before they remodeled the entire pit complex and pit building. So what you're seeing now is not the Formula One layout. This is back when the Nationwide Series and NASCAR visited here. And as we see Jack LeBrock throwing it through the curves, past the wall of champions. Ironically, if you hit that wall, you're probably not a champion.
It's climbed some big names over the years. That tiny little piece of fence, which famously has "Welcome to Quebec" written across it. And how poignant that has been for so many drivers as Jack parks it in the fence and then parks it back in the pits with a quick escape. Can do that in the qualifying session. It's not meant to be doing that in the races, but it does fill the tank back up to 65 litres, so it does come with a little bit of a penalty. We go on board with SVG, chasing Anton de Pasquale down. Same three drivers from that earlier Armor qualifying session sit inside the top three, but the order is jumbled slightly. Can SVG chase down ADP?
Personal best through Sector 1. A lot of wheel spin coming out of the hairpin. Didn't improve in Sector 2. Got to hit the brake marker called number 4 on the left-hand side. You can see 4 numbers there. Brake at the 4 as we watch through the Dunlop curb cam. SVG flooring it through the middle of the lap. Now he's not staying right, so I'm thinking he's going to begin a second run here, but let's see his time as he crosses the start-finish line at 34.3. Not an improvement on his 34.1 he set earlier in the session.
Got 3 Matt Stone racing cars in the field. Big shout out to the unit guys as well. And they've been the surprise pack throughout the field. Zane Goddard, Jake Kostecki, and Gary Jacobson, all 3 of them have been changing their sim equipment, getting things ready for tonight. Gary's taken on a whole new setup from Motum. For Zane Goddard, racing in the 34 tonight, and for Jake Kostecki in the unit racing car as well.
Zane's performances, they've been fluctuating round to round, Chad. Some rounds he looks like he's a top 10, top 15 driver. Other rounds like Mount Panorama qualified nowhere. So hopefully he can sort it out for this round so far. For Goddard, at the moment he's in 16th, which is where we sort of expected him as we watch from the Dunlop curb cam. A thrilling shot here as they run through turns 3 and 4. It's a downhill traction zone, so it's easy to lose traction. And here's where Sebastian Vettel butchered the 2011 win to Jenson Button on the final lap, the longest Formula One race in history, over 4 hours. It was 7:30 a.m. chat, and I still remember yelling and screaming with a couple of mates who we stayed up the entire night to watch that. It was worth the wait.
Nick Percat down at the hairpin, sitting 9th at the moment. Really enjoyed listening in to he and Todd Hazelwood last week during the Bathurst coverage as they raced each other across the mountain. Now, need to be so careful to not just cut the chicane down here, which would disqualify your lap, but also graze the wall on the outside. So there are plenty of ways to have your lap discounted around here.
Exactly, spot on. He's got a bit of a toe to help him. Whether or not Jack Smith gets out of the way is a different question, and it can also hamper the start to your next lap. Here they are racing alongside each other. We got contact. Unfortunately, Beto, you've got some work to do in this qualifying session.
That may have been an in-lap for Percat anyway, because he just went 1:35.16 and was 400 slower than his fastest lap. And that's a pretty exciting BP Ultimate replay as the two Brad Jones racing cars spear off into the fence.
And Chad, that's not the expression session, mate.
It was just
can't wait for
regular Armour All qualifying. Cam Waters inside the top 10 once again, and that's a 1:34.67. It's an improvement of the lap time, but doesn't see him jump up anywhere in the field just yet.
Now, Andre Heimgarten has been our most consistent driver of the series so far, but for Cam Waters, he could argue he's been doing the same. He's second in the championship coming into this round. Watch Jake Kostecki there on screen for a moment, and here is Gizzy coming through the hairpin. Seemed like no wheel spin that time, and if this is a hot lap, he could improve to pole position.
So he's just completed an out lap to get him going, and he has just gone purple through the middle. So this is looking really quick for Shane van Gisbergen. Nails the curbs. And the run onto the front straight. The time to beat is a 1:33.79. And Shane van Gisbergen misses out, but does improve the time. So he goes to 2/10 away, and that is going to be a big distance to try and find as he slips up through the center S-curve.
Now, if you're wondering why we talked about drivers doing in-laps, other drivers are just pretty much pressing escape, going back to the pits. You can get more hot laps in, but it depends on your confidence too, as we watch Gary Jacobson on screen here. And through the hairpin he goes. Like I said, a very bumpy braking zone, but these are fixed setups, so there's nothing you can do to the setup to compensate for that. Brody Kostecki behind the scenes been hard at work, providing these drivers with a stable set through both the circuit Gilles Villeneuve and Montreal, and here he is towards the final part of the lap. Now, during the race, Chad, they'll have 2 brake markers through this final corner. You look at the number 4 will be your normal marker to head into the chicane, and number 2 is if you enter the pit lane, and that's the chaos we talked about. The Watkins Glen pit entrance difficult, Montreal even more chaotic.
So Gary Jacobson 11th at the moment. The yellow cover car jumps to 9th, so that's a nice lap. Good look at his setup at home right now, running a Simucube wheel, as a lot of drivers are. Fanatec pedals for him. Back to Ange Eseries, and the young wildcard jumps onto the front straight. He's using a hybrid sim, and again with the Simucube wheel, hoping for a top 5 finish tonight. It's going to be a really tough ask for Ange, and he parks that car 12th on that lap, and still 3 minutes to go in the session.
He should be bumped up 10 spots for a cool looking livery, Angelo Mazouris.
So enough pink race cars out there, I always think, Jonathan. So the cool drive entry of Macca Jones. Picked up a nice top 10 in the first race, and he was having his own moment then as the wheel got completely ripped out of his hands.
Broke his wrists as well.
That was violent.
Here's the second chicane on the racetrack. We're watching Will Davison in the Milwaukee Racing Mustang. Can gain a lot of time through that corner. On a straight line, this braking zone into the hairpin as well. It's a great overtaking spot during our race later on today. There's a multitude of lines you can take through here, whether you want to take a V line, a U shape, plenty that will get you through this short Montreal layout. Let's see if Will Davison can improve though.
Yeah, it was a good first sector as we check in with Todd Hazelwood. And how cool is the new look for the Brad Jones racing car? Got Brute online now, so great work to BJR, always mixing up the liveries. And for Todd, He's got some work to do down in 15th. Will, currently 6th in that session, just to put a full stop on Will Davison's lap.
And a very quick sector time, by the way, for Gizzy. And here he is on screen. So we're caught onto him. The sector 2 marker will be in a few seconds' time. So we'll have a look at his sector 2 time momentarily. But he's gone purple through sector 1. Hasn't improved, though, through sector 2. So it's all about this final long run down this 1 kilometre straight here at Montreal that will end his lap for our second qualifying session of the day.
So how cool is this as he tucks in behind his teammate, trying to finish off this Armor qualifying session in style. Shane van Gisbergen pushing towards what could be a top lap. And that's a great shot from underneath the car. Petters, the official shock absorber of supercars. Oh, just about saw it again underneath Shane van Gisbergen's car as he wrapped that curb. Wasn't too much curb though. Can he find the 2/10 that he needs? 1:33.99 his best, and he goes 1:33.93, so all that for 600ths of a second, and it looks like he's putting the Q back on the rack.
Well, what did I tell you about Anton de Pasquale? He set a great banker lap, and his teammate here in the Erebus Motorsport Penrite racing car of David Reynolds up to 11th. That week off, Chad, for David Reynolds, I don't know if he was practicing like a madman behind the scenes, but he impressed me at Mount Panorama, and 11th in qualifying at Montreal is an ecstatic performance for a man who came into this not taking it too seriously. He seems to be in a good competitive mode for this session.
Yeah, he's certainly left the Super Mario costume in the wardrobe tonight. He's looking the business. Dave Reynolds sitting 11th at the moment. His teammate Anton de Pasquale on top. And with just 10 seconds to go in the session, it's going to be awfully hard to knock him off from there. Here comes Todd Hazelwood. It's cool to see him on Supercars sidetracked on Monday night, releasing the new Brute military grade livery. And here he goes down towards the last chicane for the final time. Now, other drivers to watch out for could be Bryce Forward. He's completing a lap. Only 21st for Bryce, so not quite the speed that he had in the earlier rounds. Gary Jacobson goes to 7th. That's a huge lap from Gary Jacobson to top the crew at Mattstone Racing. Scott McLaughlin has a green sector time, and he also has the front at Lee Holdsworth.
Well, we haven't talked about our championship leader too much today, but starting third's not too bad for him. But for Fullwood, that is very disappointing to see him outside the top 20. He's been by far a top 10 driver in the series, and here's Scotty Pye in the DeWalt Racing entry through the final corner. Look at the pedal suspension working at its absolute best, and he's trying to push the car and will it to the line, Scott Pye. Let's see if he improves on 15th. Up to 10th for Scott Pye. Brilliant time to win the session.
This is some late action flying through after the checkered flag has been waved. And how cool to see a couple of cars from Mattstone Racing sneak into the 10. Jake Kostecki 9th, Gary Jacobson 7th, and Zane Goddard 12th. So a huge effort from them. And also probably worth mentioning, we didn't see Marcus Ambrose get out there. We saw him trying to calibrate his sim movement early before that session started. So Marcus, unfortunately, not taking a start in the session, and will have a lot of work to do when he starts off the back. But it's Anton de Pasquale with a 5th Armor All Pole Award for the season, and he is the one-lap specialist, no doubt about it. Shane van Gisbergen just about a 10th away, and a fair distance back to everyone else. Scotty Mack 3rd, Chaz Mostert running inside the top 5 with Andre Heimgartner. How cool to see those two Mattstone Racing cars inside the 10. Dave Reynolds has found some gains. Jamie Winkup's also looking pretty quick.
Nice time.
And how cool for Ange Missouri's the 888 wildcard to be 100th off Jamie. Getting ready for tonight. Joey Logano 27th. We didn't get a lap from Jack Smith, who was out there, and also Marcus Ambrose. But here we go with Anton de Pasquale, our Armor All pole man for tonight. And this was a beautiful race. He'll be starting from pole position for race number 11 as we get set to go racing at Montreal. And this was a cracking lap, 1:33.79 to take pole by a couple of tenths of a second ahead of Shane van Gisbergen, and the usual suspects are inside the top 3. But what is it with Anton and luck so far this year? He's been able to do this every night in terms of qualifying, but just hasn't been able to piece the races together, typically through no fault of his own.
Yeah, 5th pole position today for Anton de Pasquale in that session, Chad. So it's all about avoiding the trouble, I think. I don't think you can avoid someone at Mount Panorama spitting at pit exit. That was Frosty, by the way, and collecting you. So it's like that you can't control. And I think there's an element as well where you want to put yourself in a position to not rely on luck. But again, for him, he's only going to find it's only uphill from here for Anton. P8 in the championship is not where he belongs. No. Well, let's have a chat to him right now. Anton de Pasquale is live for our Cooper's Live chat. And, hey, mate, nice lap. That was one of the biggest margins, first to second, we've seen of the season. You are really quick there.
Yeah, it was all right. I mean, Shane got one apiece, so I think we're going to have some close racing, some fast tracks, so the toe is going to be big, and hopefully the race is really good.
Your buddy, Dave Reynolds, also showing some improvements tonight. He been talking to you about how to get any quicker?
Yeah, I've been spending a bit of time with Dave. We're a team, you know, even though it's virtual, we're still a team. So we want the Penrite Racing cars to be as far forward as we can. So the plan is to have us both at the front by the end of all this. And he's doing a good job. So he's learning and getting faster every week. We're about to go head first into something we've never seen before, an expression session. What are we going to see between you and potentially even Dave in this expression session? We haven't spoke about it, so I imagine there's going to be something out of control. Not something you practice for, but we'll see what happens. We'll probably end up crashing and spinning and leaving a lot of tire marks, so we'll see. Should be fun. All right, mate. So we're not too far away from getting into this expression session. Can Dave Reynolds hear us as well? Let's get Dave in on this chat if you're there, buddy. Can you hear us, Dave? You've got to push your button to speak to us, buddy. I don't think you can hear us right now. He's getting his mind ready for an expression session. What's going to be a pretty crazy expression session, I think, at the moment. Looking forward to this. Drifting, crashing, burnouts, pretty much anything goes. And to give you a bit of an idea of what we might be heading headfirst into, this was Scott McLaughlin practicing. This is not in rewind. He was actually reversing down the back straight of Watkins Glen. And believe it or not, that wasn't the worst of it. So here comes his teammate right on cue. So, team orchestrated expression session practice between the Shell V-Power boys. That ended up as best as you could have hoped for after that. That was actually very well produced. It looked like a movie scene, like from Mad Max or something. I think it was something out of, remember Driven? That god-awful movie? It was a little bit like that. So this is going to be completely crazy. I'm not sure if there are any winners or losers, but either way, this is going to be pretty cool. We're going to send the teams out in sort of mini groups. So they've got a little bit of time to themselves. And for Todd Hazelwood, he's going straight into some burnouts. So a little bit of circle work for the Brad Jones Racing guys. He's got Macaulay Jones out there with him, waiting on Jack Smith and Nick Percat. Maybe Nick Percat's going to give Nelson a drive for his expression session. And this is looking a bit ropey at the moment as Macca absolutely nails the Brute Commodore. There's a plot twist there, Chad. Nelson is driving the car now. We just can't show it on screen. I'm just kidding. But I have absolutely no idea what to expect here. We're going to release in roughly 30-second groups at 30-second intervals between the crews. And here comes a backward Scott McLaughlin. I never thought I'd say that. This is the Melbourne show. And he's got Joey Logano, his teammate, almost bump drafting him in reverse down the back straight. That takes some skill. Don't ask me how I know this, Chad, but I think you can go 140 kilometers an hour in reverse gear. When you've got someone from the northern hemisphere pushing someone from the southern hemisphere, it looks a little bit like that. And they come unstuck halfway down the back straight, just in time for Macaulay Jones to collect them both. That was always going to end in catastrophe right there. If you've ever wondered what a Supercars demo derby would look like, it looks a bit like this. So that's BJR plus DJR. And a pretty spectacular start. I'm not sure what Scotty's got left in the bank after that. Once you crashed, you pretty much crashed. It's a little bit like a real-life demo derby. He's gone back for a second look at things. Hopefully, I want to see some drifting from someone, and Scotty's going to have a crack. Great timing. It's not an easy thing to do. Keep a supercar drifting at any real-life or iRacing sort of practice mode, but that was not a bad effort. Especially when the car's not set up to drift either, in terms of the camber and the toes and everything else. So, no, this is coming out of pit lane as well. Gizzy's just blocking the exit. Oh, he's doing this deliberately. Oh, man. So Van Gisbergen's tactic was to block the pit lane and just straight up not let anyone out. We've now got about 4 cars stuck down at the runoff to the 90. Oh,
You know, we got a figure 8 track on iRacing too. By the way, he's just blown that engine, and that's going to cost him a few $100,000 to repair.
So plenty smoking it up. Andrew Eseries joining the front of the pit box car. Let us know what you think about this on the hashtag VAFC, wherever you're watching. And this is completely different to anything we've ever tried before. Jack LeBrock joining the party. We've got a few Tickford cars into it.
Oh.
Frosty Jr.'s having a pedal. He might just win this thing.
Oh, he's cloud on the wall.
He's not doing too bad. He's got Andrew Eseries for company now. He's looking for some tips from Dad. Dad's saying just keep your boot in it.
Good on the young fella.
That is awesome.
He's got to realise he's got to reset. Oh, God. Put him in a motion sim. He won't live another day.
If he had a crack in Marcus Ambrose motion sim, he'd probably get thrown into the ceiling. Here we go. He's got some proper circle work going until he was taken out by Bryce Ford, who arrived backwards at the S's. That wasn't too bad there for a moment. That was the youngest burnouts I've ever seen. Shades of Callie Rovan-Para. If you've ever seen the WRC star driving a real car at age 7, it looked a bit like that.
This is great. Let me tell you, we should award championship points over who impresses us the most too in these.
We've got to at least get Beardo to sort of
yeah, exactly.
be the judge or something. Maybe he can hold up some scorecards.
Beardo's listening to us going, oh, more work.
Please don't. He say, please don't involve me in this. Gary Jacobson stuck at the outer loop and doing the disappearing act. Jack LeBrock, he's got the thing puffing down at the inner loop as Logano swings by.
Oh,
he's looking,
goodness.
He's looking very vulnerable there for a second.
Who was that who came through?
It was too fast. It was all a blow. Now, Andre Heimgartner, he's got the back end stepping out through the outer loop. Not bad. I don't think he's going to impress any drift judges too much as he tries to get a bit of a Scandinavian flip going up towards the penultimate turn. In the background, we've got a Shell V-Power car in the fence with no boot or rear wing. Here we go. Andre drifting his way through the last couple of corners.
Nice stuff. Cambered corners here, which help.
Shades of Sydney Motorsport Park a few years ago in the wet race, where Van Gisbergen and Mostert and Whincup went tandem drifting all the way around the track. In my head, I figured that's what this was going to be like, and it's been more like a demo derby at Parramatta Speedway.
Oh, we should get the figure 8 track on iRacing.
To be fair, it looks like a pretty regular NASCAR race at Watkins Glen.
Oh, man. Well, there was Juan Pablo Montoya and Kevin Harvick
no.
having a punch on at this corner, and have a look at that.
Pither is upside down in the pits, and he is stuck there, not going anywhere in a hurry without the escape button. And that was pretty wild. Will Davison's finally put one of the pets on the sim, and it was a matter of time before this happened. He and Rihanna are proud Frenchie owners, and it was only a matter of time before one of them had a crack on the sim. We've got donuts happening in pit lane. Now, Greg Murphy put up a post where he was doing donuts and burnouts at the Pukekohe pit lane a few years ago.
No, you know what? The funny thing is, I'm not trying to sound serious here, but they can technically get disqualified if they drive backwards too much. So they'll have, I don't know if you can undisqualify a driver. It'll have to be the first time I've ever had to think about that. Have a look at this. Good on you, Will.
That's a face that only Will and Rihanna could love, I reckon. Chaz Mostert trying to drift out of pit lane.
Yes.
And failed.
Oh, man, imagine if we did this at the Chase, man.
Well, this is sort of where it all came from, because Fabian Coulthard uploaded the jump, as it's known as now, not the chase, but the jump. Zange tries to drift, and unfortunately comes the guts of going up the S's. And Fabian's video of him trying to drift, Fabian's video of him trying to jump over the chase did huge numbers. As Joey Logano is going backwards down the back straight.
Remember in the E-Series last year, Chad, they launched like 12 cars over there.
I wonder, has he done a whole lap like this? If you played it in rewind, it would actually look like he's going forward. In case you're wondering, this is not how we're going to do the reverse grid race tonight. That was a tough one for Joey. The second last corner, he's nearly there. He got up at 3 a.m. for this. And there you go. That is what the Supercars Expression Session looks like. A lot of fun. We're not too far from going live up in Sydney for the BP Ultimate Supercars All-Stars E-Series. We've got 4 huge races heading your way. We've got 4 massive wildcard names. That was Armor All qualifying. Stick around, there's more to come.